So just a quick vlog. What I got here is a bunch of these Raspberry Pi heat sinks. As you see here, I just got this a while ago. I didn't had time to install. I thought today let me do an install. Before that, we can quickly install this ALM sensors and see the temperature of Raspberry Pi. See, you can see there I was doing some work, and I was showing some demo for my student, and but those who know me are aware that I generally use most of my equipment for some live projects, and this Raspberry Pi is not an exception. I am using this as some kind of a server once in a while, and also as a test device or a test host to test some client stuff. So I just did this entire Ubuntu this thing software upgrade. See, this is based on Debian, so we can do this apt update and upgrade sequence. So you can see there it has done that. It has also updated this kernel and stuff. So I thought it's a high time I just open that and install, and then I suddenly thought, why not I shoot a quick video log. So before we do, we can test its temperature. You can provide this command called sensors. This will work if you install this tool called ALM sensors. See there, this is the same case with Ubuntu as well. Okay, you can install it on your desktop or laptop Ubuntu, and then you should get that command working. Okay, so you can do that, and yeah. So I believe it should work for Raspberry Pi as well. I believe in the past I used this on Raspberry Pi, but this is some recent install, hence it is missing here. So hope you can see there it's near 60 degrees. It's a bit hot summer now, so since the ambient temperature is also hotter, it's going to stay relatively high. So this is without any load. So imagine if you run something on a Pi, then it should reach around 60 to 65 degrees Celsius. So what we do is we quickly shut down the Raspberry Pi, and we can install this bunch of heat sinks. So they provided this set of three this three heat sinks. One is for, I believe, a USB controller, and one is for this wireless module and the main processor or the SoC itself. See, in the Raspberry Pi we call it as SoC because it's an entire system on chip. It's an entire computer on chip, versus what you find typically on a laptop or your a PC, where you find a CPU and then you have a chipset controller and various other stuff. But in the case of tiny embedded boards, usually the entire SoC will contain almost all the stuff, including sound card, a graphics card, or a GPU, as well as your USB controllers and Ethernet controllers and stuff like that. So Raspberry Pi also is a SoC, hence you are supposed to call it as an SoC rather than just a CPU. Okay, so we just power off. Yeah, so let me wait for a while and grab the Raspberry Pi, and then we can install this heat sinks, and we quickly find the difference before and after. So hope you can see this is the Raspberry Pi. It is in this official case which I am using. So usually I set any static IP address whenever I use it for regular stuff. So hence I paste this is a label, and if I set it as a static IP, then I set this IP address, or otherwise it will grab some dynamic IP address and stuff like that. So let me just pop open this case, and I can see it is almost warm to touch. Even outside case it is. So hence we can find the processor temperature is around 60 degrees. So you can see that this is the main SOC, and we can open this case in this way. So the side panel should come out. It's quite challenging to take this apart. So once you remove this side panels, hope you can see this. You remove the side panels, this top panel will come out. So because we need to get access to this chip to paste one of this heatsink. Okay, so we just try to remove one by one side panels. It's always quite challenging to take this apart, especially this case. So you can see there we can remove these two side panels, and they have given some sort of a notch like stuff. So you should be able to press and lift this. Okay. When this is new, it was even more harder to disassemble, but now it is quite relatively easier. Yeah, this place somewhere it catches all the time, so it's just yeah. So yeah, it always happens over here because this Ethernet port is there, and at the same time this thing as well. So you can't much press, and it is going to hinder versus over this side. So it always happens. So hope you can see there. I'm supposed to install this 3 heat sinks. See, this is quite important because I'm not using this Raspberry Pi as some sort of a learning stuff or something. This has some real stuff, and I do have various other SD cards. Some are meant for even some type of production use. Okay, so you can see there this is the SD card I'm using. So anyway, each one, if you align, it should be somewhat like this. So I want to keep it in this orientation possibly, and this one you need to be careful, don't touch these GPIO pins, so little keep it away, and this one is fine. You can see there this is the controller, and you can put it. I seen in the past that this gets hotter quite quicker as you boot, and as you use it for a while, this gets too hot. Okay, this one, and then even that heat propagates over these ports, and even if you touch this, it should feel quite warm. So it's very important you don't miss this chip. Okay, so make sure that you don't touch any of this side SMD components. Just paste it on the chip alone. So before you do, just see if you can align everything, and what is the sort of clearance you get on other components. See, there is this sort of SMD component, don't go and touch this over there. So just make sure that you don't touch any of those SMD components, and see how it everything aligns. So that way you can see any clearance or something. So keep it like this and see that how you can install this. Okay, and then you can start working out one by one. So I want to start with this. It is quite easier. So let me just take everything apart, and before installing, it's always good to use some rubbing alcohol and then clean the surface, because as we touch or something, that oil and dirt will be there. Okay, so let me just wetting this cotton swab. What you do is, little bit you can apply on the surface, and you can wipe it with this dry side. Okay, you can just do some bunch of times. Hope you can see here in the camera. So do this, it should clean the surface. yeah, it's clean now, and we can, yeah, so this is a Broadcom chip, and so I want to start with this one. So we can peel this backing stuff. So you don't have to install any thermal grease, because it has that sort of a tape or something pasted on it. So carefully remove with this tweezer like this. It should have that sticky surface. Yeah, you can see there I had some tough time to peel that this thing. I'm not sure why it has got this way, it got peeled. Anyway, you can see there this side is the sticky part, and it has also that thermally conducting stuff they applied on top. It's not a coating, it's like a thin double sided tape. You can see there in the camera. So let me just install this. You can orient and paste it this way. So I want to be cautious and not to touch this GPIO pins, and also if you put any jumper cables or something, there should be enough clearance. So I'm making sure that it's not too much over that side. See, you can see there it sticks firm, and we can start with this other one. Yeah, this one peels quite easily. I'm thinking, why not I orient this in this direction? This looks nice. Okay, so yeah, this looks fine. So let me just press it against the surface. Yeah, so that looks secure. So let's start the final one. Yeah, so this one I'm thinking, why not I orient this side something similar to this. I'm not liking that vertical position. So I'm just making sure that it is not touching this SMD component. There is a small SMD component here, so that looks like some sort of a tantalum capacitor or something like that. Yeah, yeah, that looks fine. It is somewhat aligned, so which is still, yeah, it's secure. And what we do is we can quickly put back the case and test the temperature. So let me put this back. Putting this is always easy, as everything snaps in its place. Yeah, this side is always quite tricky, because it should align all these ports. So finally the top cover. I still want to put this cover and test, because we can see the difference before and after this thing is installed. So that's it, and let's just quickly power this and see what kind of temperatures we get. We are back. See, sometimes I do get questions from viewers asking me why you need a Raspberry Pi or something. See, one advantage of using a Raspberry Pi is sometimes if you can't or if you want a bare metal access and you want to host a test server or something like that, okay, in my premises. See, sometimes the customers will have their data centers and we do put across some sort of this thing, a bare metal stuff, if not a VM or some container. But if there is some sort of a bare metal testing have to be done, then Raspberry Pi is a good choice, because you get also a gigabit Ethernet, and you can also connect any external USB adapters and extend its Ethernet ports. So I always do that. Okay, so anyway, let's log into the Pi and let's see. Yeah, so we see currently it shows 44 degrees, but to get somewhat hotter, we should get some kind of a load. Okay, so what we do is we should run something so that it should get little hotter. So I can go here to my TrueBench stuff, and let me do a quick download of the source code, and we can try it. Okay, so this is the path, copy link location, and we do a wget and we paste that link. Yeah, see, you get that TrueBench and gcc -o truebench.c. See, usually when you run this, it will consume any CPU core, and it can put across almost 100% load. So it is good enough to test a sort of system load scenario. So let's just run this and let it run a full test. Okay, so I can also meanwhile compare this benchmarks what I took on the same board for Raspberry Pi 3. See, I got around 1278 million whatever, so that is 1278 seconds. Okay, so this is Pi 3, and Pi 4, this one is given by one of my student. So as you see here, this is almost half that of Pi 3, and the Pi 3 versus Pi 2, again it is almost half that of Pi 2 model B. So this one is specifically it is a model B plus. So you can see there B plus versus B, there's a tiny bit of difference. Okay, so let's just wait for a minute or so. It should get complete. Well, this thing not just took a bunch of minutes, it took almost 15 to 20 minutes. Hope you can see there. So that is quite long, divided by 60. Yeah, it's around 25 minutes. So let's quickly test the sensors, and you can see that it is close to 60 degrees, and I'm not sure how much it was before. This is the screenshot. You can see there, this is before we install this. This is a temperature when it is idle, versus this is a temperature after this full load on the system. But in this test, usually I test only a single core, because it is just strictly a single process. It is not going to spawn any threads nor multiple processes, so it is going to be strictly single core. But it depends, as it does time sharing as any Linux operating system. So if this process sleeps and then gets back, then it may have a chance to switch over onto some other CPU core, but more or less it is going to load the system. Hence you see this temperature. So we wait for a while and see that where it settles down. So it should make sense, but in either of the case it's not about how effective it is. It depends on various characteristics. Currently, to shoot this video, I turned off the fan, and also that is going to influence the temperature, ambient temperature, hence the temperature of inside that box or the case. Okay, things like that. But in either case, it is good to always install some sort of heat sink, where it is going to provide a small chance to dissipate that heat quickly. Okay, so of course I can wait for another 10-20 minutes and it should drop down at a reasonable rate. But in a way it is see, you can see there, I mean, in fact, if I keep the system idle, slowly it should drop down. Okay, yeah, you can see there it is going near 57, and eventually it should reach 56 or something. So I believe with the heat sink it is going to reduce around 5 degrees or something like that. But this is not a big criteria if you just run the Raspberry Pi for few minutes or so. But if you are using for some sort of a testing or some kind of production use, I mean production, not like you deploy it in some premises. Sometimes you just use it for a serious task, not like some learning tool, and you turn on for many hours or maybe days together, then it's going to make a real impact. Okay, so you can see there it's quite hot, it's because it's been in that case. But again, I still believe that as you turn on any fan, or if you are having any AC or something, it should overall cool that ambient air, and then it should also reflect the device. So I have seen in the past it is getting quite hotter, but it's still, I feel it is going to make sense. See, after a while it is coming below, and I believe if I leave it on for some time, it should drop down. Anyway, one more aspect is, see, in the case of x86, you can do this proc CPU info, and you can see the frequency and the stuff. And of course, if there is some load on the system, it should happen eventually. It should heat up, and then it should start the frequency throttling. In the case of Pi, it is not showing anything over here. I am not sure where else it shows, but in the case of general x86, it's quite common. You can go here, you can go to the proc and do a scat CPU info. You will get some measure of this CPU frequency. And in fact, if you do a grep of this megahertz and CPU info, this is in capital letter. So you can see there, this is all my cores of my CPU. I got a 6-core CPU, so it shows around 12 entries. So WC, you can see there are 12 entries, and this is the overall core frequency of each of these cores. Okay, something like this. So this if it goes beyond a specific threshold, the frequency throttling should kick in. So similarly, what happens is, if something like that happens, then it should also shoot up the temperature. Yeah, you can see there it is slowly reducing. So yeah, it makes sense if you use it for a long duration, or if you are using for some serious IoT projects or some real use case. It's always good to have some heat sink, and even if you prefer, you can have some active cooling. You can have some small heat sink along with some kind of a fan or something like that. But for me, it is fine. I don't use it for long duration of time, but I do use this Raspberry Pi for some serious customer projects. Okay, so just a casual vlog. I just thought of showing you, in case because also Most of my students do have a small Raspberry Pi, and they do have sometimes for learning and testing and stuff like that. So I generally recommend them, if you ever buy Raspberry Pi, buy this heatsink as well. And if you find any copper variant, it is much better than this aluminum ones, but it is still better to have an heatsink rather than having the Pi alone without anything on its board. Okay, so that's about it. Hope you like this video. If you have anything to discuss, be in touch via mail. Thanks a lot for joining me. Stay tuned. Have a nice day. Bye bye.